Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. In all the furore over Humza Yousaf making the delusional claim that the general election in Scotland will be between the SNP and the Tories, I don't think anyone stopped to ask Anas Sarwar what he feels. Well, Anas Sarwar has now been asked. The Daily Record has done a piece and we're going to take a look at it. But he must be sitting there chortling into his cornflakes every morning as Humza Yousaf goes on about attacking the Tories. But of course Humza has to. He knows he can't beat Labour. Labour are going to wipe the floor with them, take over half his seats away, and there may even be a few seats going to the Tories from the SNP. Humza Yousaf has to try and claim some small victory. And if Labour's out of the question, he's aiming his ire at the Tories. But I think he'll even be unlucky there, won't he? But he seems to think he's going to emerge victorious from this election. Yeah, sure, we've lost over half our seats, but look at me. There can be only one, and he raises his sword into the sky, hoping for the quickening. Unfortunately, he's not Callum MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod. He's more the Kurgan. Looks big to start with, but soon will be beheaded, his army destroyed, and Labour charging down the hill to spear the survivors. It's a dead party, led by an idiot. He doesn't understand who his enemy is. Let's take a look. So, Humza Yousaf dismissed as desperate by Anas Sarwar over a Tory election claim. And not just by Anas Sarwar, we all know he is desperate. He can't win against Labour, but he's got to pick some kind of victory to keep his self-esteem high. Yeah, but we were never going to win against Labour, but look, we took some Tories out. And of course, the final humiliation is, with a little bit of tactical voting, the Tories can take 2 or 3 seats off the SNP quite easily. Pete Wishart, he's in deep trouble now. The change of boundaries has made Pete Wishart's constituency a little bit Tory. It's possible that Wishart's out, and that, of course, would be a major blow. That is the longest serving SNP MSP at Westminster gone. He'll resign. There's nowhere else for him to go. There's nothing else for him to do. There's no comeback. And so there you go. Pete Wishart's gone. That, of course, will be a major blow and a major humiliation for Humza Yousaf. He can't possibly claim a victory then. Anyway, Sarwar tore into the First Minister over his attempt at airbrushing Labour out of the general election picture. And Sarwar has accused Humza Yousaf of being weak and desperate over claims the general election is between the SNP and the Tories. But Humza Yousaf is weak and he is desperate and he is in trouble. And he knows it. The Scottish Labour leader said his SNP counterpart was insulting the intelligence of Scots by simply focusing on the Conservatives. Yousaf, who succeeded Nicola Sturgeon as SNP leader, said this year's election in Scotland is a straight fight between his party and the Tories. This is a man who doesn't know who his enemy is. He doesn't know where the battlefield is. He's a man that going to lose. He's absolutely. I'm trying to think of a way of putting it in any other function. No, he's destined to lose. There is no other way of putting it. Yousaf, who succeeded Nicola Sturgeon as SNP leader, said that this year's election in Scotland is a straight fight between his party and the Tories. And he also called on his members to make history by ensuring the country was Tory-free. The rhetoric of hate. The rhetoric of the little Austrian. And for Tory-free, and then Jew-free, and then Labour-free. And then only people in Scotland will be SNP voters, the rest concentration camps. He went to China, didn't he? He met the Chinese people and he admired the way that they were dealing with their dissidents, as he called them. Failing to acknowledge that dissidents was Chinese speak for let's lock up all the Muslims and put them into concentration camps. He didn't like it, but he thought that the idea was sound. And that's what he's going to try when he gets here, here, hopefully. He's going to try and do it before the election, though, isn't he? Polls have shown Labour neck and neck with the SNP, an outcome which would see Sarwar's party winning over 20 seats from the Nationalists. And as I say, people, tactical voting. If it means Labour get a seat or 2 extra here and the Tories get a seat or 2 extra there, it doesn't matter. Getting the SNP out is important. Remember, they are so desperate for money now. They need that camper van back to sell it to raise funds. They are that bankrupt. They are that close to the edge. If you can get rid of all those seats at Westminster, they'll go. They've gone. They're straight into administration and they're finished. It also comes after Labour trounced the SNP in Rutherglen and Hamilton West by-election following a 20.4% swing. A swing that even made John Curtis, he was stunned. If you ever saw him on that night, and you had, who did you have in there? There was Dame Jackie. She was sitting there, grinning like that. And she, and Alan and Keith Brown was sitting next to her, face like a pantry door he had, and it was just a beautiful thing to behold. But as they say, John Curtis was astonished. Even he was astonished by the size of the swing. He said he thought it might be 10 to 11%. When it was over 20, he said he just looked, and he said he saw that Jackie Bailey's face was just beaming, and it was. Anyway, excuse me. Speaking to the record, Sarwar said Humza Yousaf is insulting the intelligence of people across Scotland. Everyone knows the next general election is a fight between Labour and the Tories. It's a choice between 5 more years of Rishi Sunak, Liz Truss. Liz Truss is gone. That's not Liz Truss. Suella Braverman, Kemi Badenoch, or 5 years with a fresh start and a change with the Labour leader. Hang on a minute. You were the one who said that voting for Scottish Labour would give you a buffer against Keir Starmer. You're saying, and I've covered this before, you're saying that the only way to save people in Scotland from what Keir Starmer would do would be to vote Scottish Labour. So it's a very weird thing. You're actually going against your own party. Anyway, he says, I think more and more people across the country are seeing we need change from 2 bad governments and coming to Labour. And this is just a desperate attempt to say you'd only have 1 bad government. And this is just a desperate attempt from a weak, failing First Minister. Well, he has got that. He is weak and he is failing. He says he's had that many different election strategies and straplines in a very short space of time. I think it just shows a weak leader hunting desperately for relevance and trying to distract away from his failing record and his own incompetence. I don't think he can hide his incompetence. I think his incompetence now is so well known that there's no getting away from it. He's failed in every job, and he's failing in the one he's in. And it doesn't matter what he does next, he'll fail in that. And of course, the great thing about the SNP is they don't go to the Lords. And so it's not as though he can quit Scottish politics and get bumped upstairs. That doesn't happen. Although the humble crofter desperately wants it to. Yousaf's Tory-free comment was also disowned by veteran SNP Pistol Pete Wishart. He wrote that he would not be using the message during the campaign, despite previously using it. He said, much as I will be doing everything possible to ensure the Tories are kept out of Perth and Kinrossshire. Don't hold your breath on that one, Pete. He says, I won't be using this Tory-free rhetoric as part of my campaign. SNP's deputy leader, Mary Black, MP, said it is a simple fact that... Did I say deputy leader? SNP's Westminster deputy leader, click. Mary Black said, it's a simple fact that if you want to make Scotland free of Tory MPs, then you must vote SNP. No, you must vote anything other than SNP if you want to improve life for people in Scotland. She said, the SNP are Scotland's voice at Westminster. Oh, really? What about all the others? Do they not have a voice, Mary? And they won't be the voice next November, will they? You'll be gone. Hooray! If nothing else, the smell will be better, won't it? She'll be off to enjoy her Colombian Kit Kats in privacy. Anyway, I don't want to hear what Mary Black has to say. She's boring. But yeah, there we go. So it is just a case of Anna Sarwar saying that Humza Yousaf is an idiot. We knew that it is obviously a fight between Scottish Labour and the SNP. The Tories will be there and be there about. They'll get a few seats, but they're not the enemy here. They're not the ones that Labour are worried about. Labour are worried about the SNP. But not that worried. They're going to slaughter them. Anyway, we'll round off. We'll come up. On whichever Thursday night it is, at 10 o'clock, we'll be tuning in. Newsnight or Sky News, whichever, it doesn't matter. GB News, doesn't matter which channel. They'll all be the same. They'll all have the same talking heads, and they'll all be going, right, it's 10 o'clock, let's look at the polls. And we'll look at the polls. And those polls will be very, very indicative of what is going to happen. And I suspect that those polls will show almost immediately that there will be a massive decline in the SNP. And you're going to have whatever talking head that they get on there. Keith Brown, Pete Wishart, Leslie Riddoch, whoever. They get the usual crowd that come on to sit there and say, right, tell me, what do you think? And they'll be they'll be crying into their soup, won't they? They're sitting there. Well, of course, we always knew that Labour were going to do well. Well, it's all very much about Labour. And they won't mention it. They won't mention the Tories because they know they're going to get their arse handed to them. And the fight was always against the Tories. But if they see a massive drop and that the Tories have strengthened, it won't be mentioned at all. And of course, by about 10 o'clock on the Friday morning, Humza Yousaf will be dust. That's assuming he makes it to the election. And there's no guarantee of that. With the whisperings on the back benches, he may be gone as soon as Easter. This could be his last free weekend. Who knows? Anyway, thank you very much for watching. We'll finish there. Do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment. Please share the video, and I'll speak to you later. Bye.